Hey soldiers, I recently got a negative comment on one of the videos and I want to approach it from the standpoint of a teachable moment. All right, I want to delve into this comment and help. Actually, the commenter doesn't even realize this because they were trying to be snarky, but it's really going to help explain what this channel's real purpose is. So at the end of the day, I owe a little bit of a debt of gratitude to the commenter who made this negative comment because he or she got me to thinking in a more crystallized fashion about what this channel is and what we're doing here. Now, first, let me say there's a difference between a negative comment and a constructive comment. Now, I try to respond to all of the comments in some form or fashion. And I thank you all for commenting and interacting. Now, I will admit, and this is a good problem to have, responding to all of these comments is becoming more and more challenging because there's more interest in the channel. And for that, I thank you. We've got more subscribers, more interaction on the community page, in the comment section, all across the board. So for that, I am just blown away and appreciative. And if you have not become a soldier, it's easy to enlist. Just hit that subscribe button right now, and we will welcome you with open arms. Now, let me tell you what the difference between, before I get into this negative comment and how we're going to deal with it, let me get into the definition of a negative comment versus a constructive comment. I'll give you an example. There was a constructive comment on one of the Sam Bankman-Fried FTX reports that I did. That report said, hey, I don't know if you meant to do this or not, but when you said this, you may have really meant that. I'm not sure if you misspoke. You know what I said to that person? You're right, I did misspeak. I'm not infallible, okay? This is not CNN or Fox or, one of those major news. This is not the White House press secretary. I'm human, okay? I make mistakes. And I appreciate you guys pointing this stuff out, okay? So that we can all be better informed, better educated. So what I did in response to that commenter, I said, thank you. You're absolutely right. I did misspeak. I meant to say this instead of that. I went on to say, I'm going to pin your comment so that it'll go up to the top and everybody will see this so that once they watch the video, or if they're watching that particular report and reading the comments simultaneously, they'll know. Okay, so we did that. I have no problem at all with constructive criticism that's going to help us all grow and build. Now, the definition of a negative comment is something that is purely destructive and not meant to add anything to the conversation at all. Now, of course, we have these people out here, they're called trolls, okay? And apparently, you have some people that will sit and watch an entire video and, then make a slew of negative comments. And guess what? I let those comments stand unless they got some really crazy language in it, because we're not doing that here on the channel. But we got a comment on the report I did about the Google layoffs. Now, if you haven't seen that report, you need to go watch it. I'm going to tag it later on in this video. But what I was saying in that report was basically the brass tacks of life. I have worked plenty of W-2 jobs in my lifetime. In fact, I started out making wooden toys and stripping furniture. I know some of you thought stripping furniture, okay? I actually made money. I didn't have to pay people to. Anyway, the stripping furniture job, they would alternate us. And we were kids. As I look back on this, I might have worked in a sweatshop because what we do is we'd put on these long gloves. I was like 14 years old. Long yellow rubber gloves. And then we would take this chemical and we put it on this donated furniture. And then we would take these little like putty knives and strip the furniture of the old paint. And I'm telling you, no matter how hard you try to keep that substance off of your skin. It just never worked. And that stuff burned like you wouldn't believe. And I was a kid doing this. But I was happy. I was making money. I didn't realize at the time I was working in a sweatshop. Oh, well. And it was literally a sweatshop because it was a summer job in Baltimore City in the basement of a school. And it was unbelievably hot. There was no AC. And so what they do is they'd have us work 4 hours stripping furniture. At the end of that 4 hours, we'd all run down to the bathroom, and they had this big industrial sink where you would step on a pedal and water would come out of the faucet, okay? And that was just the best feeling to get that caustic substance off of your skin. That cool water felt good for that reason and because it was so hot in the building. And so after we finished our 4 hours, then we would trade with a crew of kids that were doing, they were making wooden toys, okay? So that was fun because, we didn't have to worry about the chemicals. That's how I started off. Then I went as a high school student and I worked at McDonald's. I worked at Verizon. I worked 3 jobs at one time, okay? I would leave, the phone company. I did 9 to 5 there, Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 at Sears as a loading dock guy, and then open to close Saturday and Sunday at Radio Shack. Sears and Radio Shack, I don't even think they exist anymore. Bell Atlantic is now Verizon. That tells you how old I am. In any event, I've worked my share of W-2 jobs. Now, in that report we did about Google, I talked about how the employees are upset that they're getting laid off. Let me tell you something. This is 2023. We're not pulling any punches here. We're trying to inform people as to what we see as the evolving economy and how our attitudes toward that economy needs to change. So with regard to the comment that was made, I laid out the brass tacks of the situation. I said clearly, and you'll see in that report, I'll tag it in a moment, you'll see in that report where I said, look, these companies don't owe you anything, and you need to be more like a mercenary when you're out there in the 21st century and you are working for a company, because they definitely have zero loyalty to you. And listen, that's not nefarious. That's just a function of a job. Now, here's another thing that I personally believe about a job. When you work a job, you're helping someone else build their dream. And you might be okay with that. I sure was for a long, long time. I was okay with that because I had a different type of risk. It wasn't that I had zero risk. I had a different type of risk. If you're an employee, you still have risk. The Google employees are finding that out. Facebook, Netflix, Tesla, they're all finding that out right now. There is risk in being an employee. That's why there's such a shock going through their system. So when I put that report out there, some guy commented, "You sound like a billionaire." And that's not a compliment. No, what I sound like is an unapologetic advocate for the concepts of equity and ownership. And let me go further. When I say equity, I'm not talking about this equity they're trying to sell you, equity, diversity, inclusion. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the same type of equity that Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey, Curtis Jackson, all of these people that own equity in something that is providing them with appreciation, income, tax advantages. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about this pie in the sky, or we're going to throw you these buzzwords, a different type of equity in order to pacify you. No. And I'm also not going to pull any punches with coming to you guys in the way I see the world from my perspective. So he said I sounded like a billionaire and it wasn't a compliment. It wasn't meant to be a compliment by this commenter. What I also sound like, sir or ma'am, is someone who grew up in West Baltimore, in the hood, without any money, and who has learned over the decades the importance of, again, ownership and equity. So if I had my druthers, more and more people who know there's something out there. I'm not quite satisfied with the way things are going in my life. I feel beholden to this job. My whole life depends on what happens with this particular single source of income. These are the people that I want to be soldiers in this army, okay? Because I am a big advocate for multiple streams of income. I don't want to see anybody, Google employee or not, in a situation where they're handed a pink slip and they don't know how they're going to make the next month's rent. Okay? I don't want to see anybody in that situation. I've been in situations where I have gotten an eviction notice on my door 12 consecutive months. Okay? And I always made it, by a hair's breadth. And I was never evicted. But I've been there. Okay? So, sir or ma'am, what I sound like is someone who's speaking from experience. All right. And if you can't handle that, then obviously this is not the channel for you. There are going to be channels out there who want to, just pacify you by telling you how, the world owes you something. And I'm about to say something that is not safe for work. So we're going to have a little countdown before I say it in case you want to skip ahead by 30 seconds. But when you go throughout your life in a situation where you believe the world owes you something and you're looking here, there, everywhere for somebody to give you something, and you're not determined to be in a position where you can dictate terms, if you operated like that in a prison, you know what you would get? I'm not going to say it, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is hard time on planet Earth. So the Soldiers of Finance channel, again, is unapologetic about the concepts of equity, and we're talking about asset-related equity and ownership. And we will never, ever deviate from that. And if you don't like it, then you need to find another channel, okay? There are plenty of channels who do a great job and got a lot more subscribers and viewers than I do that are talking, trying to make you believe that the world owes you something. Okay, go subscribe to one of them. Watch one of them. There are plenty of other channels that do a fine job of going through pacification and bread and circus subjects like sports, entertainment. And that's fine. We all need diversions, right? But that's not who we are. All right, guys? So here's that video that we did. Again, I'm trying to remember to call them reports. That's what I prefer to call them. Here's that video that I did on the Google situation. You take a look at that if you haven't already seen it. And if you know a young person, send them this report. Because I don't want any young person coming out into the world today to have some pie in the sky notion. I want them to be disavowed of the notion that anybody owes them anything. You can go out there and you can create multiple streams of income. You can create opportunities where you own. Now here's the video. And you can prosper, okay? So to whomever left that comment, whoever you are, I thank you because you really made me sit down and think deeply about the subject. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.